This was a 1 hour 30 minutes presentation before, so this was 25 minutes. Congratulations and thanks a lot. Okay, it was a clear statement for the latest technology. Based on your experience in international markets, where are the differences between the North American, the European or Asian market? Are there differences and why?
Between European and Asian market?
Yeah. European, Asian and North American. Yeah.
Right, I mean, are you talking about virtualized infrastructure? Or, I mean, the main difference, if you look at virtualized infrastructure services, is that in Germany, for example, the VPS market is very competitive, just like raw and dedicated. And so there is really a market for true VPS. You can buy VPS probably in Germany for less than 10 euro per month per server. Where in the US, there is not as much competition in that segment, and the focus is on dynamic server offerings, and the average price per partition in the US is much, much higher. It's probably around $50 rather than $10. So there is literally true VPS market is mostly existing in Germany. And Asia is really hard to say because the market is highly fragmented. If you talk about Japan, for example, in Japan, the market is VPS in many cases are sold at a higher price than dedicated servers. But in other markets, the virtualized infrastructure is just getting larger.
Okay. Which market is most price aggressive?
Germany?
Germany, definitely, like always. Okay, thank you. Now you're invited to have your own questions as well.
My name is Uli Faden from Faden IT Services.
Okay, Mr. Faden.
You talked about the approach that VMware or something like virtual servers from Microsoft, they just put a virtual hardware, and your software is producing a virtual operations system. Can you please tell something more to this?
So basically, if you use virtual machine monitors, such as Xen, such as VMware, or such as virtual server, there is another product on the market called Parallels. What these products do, they virtualize hardware. So each partition effectively is a virtual computer with virtual devices, and you run a complete copy of the operating system in each partition. You run hardware drivers, you run kernel services. The advantage of this approach is that you can run different operating systems on a server. So you can run Windows on Linux, for example, or you can run various Linux kernels on the same box. The disadvantage is that you need to manage more servers. The way we actually manage more operating systems and so on, and there is less efficiency. The way our technology works, we virtualize operating system. We virtualize namespace in the operating system. So effectively, each partition, applications and users which are running in each partition, they see only, they believe they see their own operating system, but actually it's a shared operating system between multiple partitions. Effectively, all applications and all users running in virtual private server with Virtuoso, they see their own namespace for files, for objects, for various objects in memory, and so on.
Okay, Mr. Faden?
Thanks.
Answer the question? Yeah.
I think we have to talk in detail afterwards.
Okay. Pretty good. Okay, the next questions. Okay, there.
Werner Fischer, Thomas Krenn AG. You mentioned that Virtuosos are also used in areas where you use it with load balancing solutions, where you put multiple customers on servers, where you put one single load balancing solution in front of it. So I'm not quite sure about what's the idea behind that, because in my mind, load balancing is implemented when you have a high load on the server. So where are the areas where this virtualization technique can be used in load balancing solution to get benefits out of it?
Right. So load balancing is used for two reasons. One reason is, of course, high load, but another reason is also high availability. So you can achieve 100% availability with such solution without having dedicated hardware. Also, load balancing solutions are typically done for servers which are having highly, how to say, I mean, basically the peak load is not at at all times. For example, if you have a download site, if you have a new release of the software, then you get a lot of downloads. And then most of the time, there is not enough load. With this solution, you can put them on shared servers when there's not enough load. When there is a lot of load, you can just migrate them to a dedicated hardware. When there is enough load, you can migrate it back. And again, we have right now a number of customers who use our technology as a technology just to increase manageability. So they will have a single partition per server. They will just use it in order to provision it easier, or in order to do a backup easier, or in order to be able to migrate between servers and so on.
Okay, do you agree? Yeah. Okay, thank you. The next question, please. Then I'd like to start with another question. How will the idea of virtual private service be established in the market? Because you're, of course, extremely convinced from this idea. So what's your marketing strategy to force this topic, this idea of virtual private service?
Well, I mean, we don't actually have forces. We just provide technology.
So the market is
it's more of the market opportunity for providers. Right now, I believe, since especially in German market, 1&1 and Strato launched virtual private servers, they will do their best to educate the market on this good service. But what we can do on our side is just help, provide better technology, provide marketing support, provide some ideas of how it could be used, but that's about it. We're just the technology provider here. Okay. We don't sell virtual private servers.
Okay. Any further questions? Yep.
Next one, Schröder from WebChat. One question about security is, are there any more security barriers, or can any typical Linux or Windows or whatever exploit be used to get into other virtual servers?
Okay, we come back to the security point.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you actually enumerate all of the security exploits, I mean, the first thing which I want to say is that over the many years where we used Virtuoso, the security has never been an issue. So there was no security exploits which were actually breaking the isolation in virtual private servers in real life. However, some subset of exploits which are available, which are true for Linux, they will also be true for virtualized Linux. The interesting thing about those exploits is that, about those security holes, is that they usually no good exploits for them. And so exploits would not work in the partitions. And we typically pick security exploits in our technology very, very quickly before exploits are available. So the holes are known, but there is no exploits. That's a typical situation. But again, if you enumerate out of 100 exploits, majority of exploits are focused on getting root access. And if you try to execute these exploits inside the partition, what you will get is a root access, but inside the partition. So in that way, virtualization neither solves the problem nor make it worse. There are some other exploits which can be more dangerous, but again, they don't actually. We don't meet them in real life. They only exist they only theoretically can affect virtualized servers.
So there are actually more barriers between the virtualized partitions?
Yeah, there are more barriers, and it's much harder to exploit the virtualized partition and to exploit just application, but it's a software and everything could be exploited.
Okay, do you agree with the answer? Okay. Thank you. Let's have a look in the future, between 3 and 5 years. Where do you see the future markets, and what are the main drivers from your point of view?
Well, I mean, again, I think the main thing for the virtualized infrastructure is that all infrastructure is going to be virtualized, regardless of whether providers will decide to benefit from it or not. And so you will get virtualization running in every server. It's quite clear that this is the direction where Microsoft is going. It's quite clear that this is the direction where Red Hat is going. And what we have right now, it's probably the opportunity windows for providers to differentiate and launch some new services. In 3 or 4 or 5 years, all of the services will be virtualized. And so that's kind of the situation.
Okay, so it's a process, and this process will continue the next few years.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Further questions, please? Yeah, okay, the next one there.
Hi, I'm Ivan from IT. I have just a question regarding the competition with Microsoft. I'm a bit concerned that, not in the near future, but in a few years, Microsoft is planning to take market share and they will do a few developments so they can get that market.
Primarily, Microsoft is trying to take all the markets they can, but what you need to do as a software company is just to try to stay ahead and differentiate, develop features which Microsoft will not have. So, I mean, eventually Microsoft might have the same features as we have in their operating system, not so soon, and this few years might be very important for us, because if you're talking about 5 years, for example, that's probably long enough for us to build a very, very good business. But by the time they have the features we have right now, we will have other features. We'll have management tools and so on and so forth. At the moment, we don't really compete with Microsoft. The Microsoft Virtual Server product is very, very different. It's a virtual machine monitor product, and there are some advantages to it, and there are some disadvantages to it, but they're really used in the different scenarios. They're really rather complementary.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Sergei, thank you. It was great to have you here. Thanks for your presentation and answering our questions.